Hello, welcome to the Wellness Lab podcast. Thanks for being here, Valerie, where we are providing great ideas, knowledge to the community around health and wellness. So that's why we have today Valerie Choniuk here to provide us on her journey, some insights, how she has progressed from the personal professional path to have a holistic view on overall wellness, and your journey. So thanks, Valerie. Thanks for being here today. Greatly appreciate having you at the podcast. And over to you just to get some insights on your personal background, your professional career, and then we'll dive into the conversation on how you have managed both things in a balanced manner and also achieving wellness.
Thank you so much for having me, Lily. I really appreciate it. Balance, that's a hard word, right? I'll start with I am a wife, a mom of three. I am absolutely in the thick of it and very busy with my children, as well as a full time working mom. And I can tell you that life has changed drastically over the years, especially when you really dive into work and when you dive into being a parent. And I currently live in very Northeast Florida. I'm a New York State transplant, been down here now almost 5 years. Absolutely love it, especially when it comes to the idea of holistic wellness and living a life that really matches what our family needs to thrive in this world. And we are just very grateful that we're here. And I'm very grateful to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, amazing. So I know when we were chatting offline, I love the idea of you coming with us, sharing all your personal insights, how you do lots of things, and obviously keep that part of okay, you have your professional career, how can you manage things, but also be part of your family as they just grow so fast. So before we dive into the conversation, is there like this type of challenge you can have for others to get started with and think a bit more of what they can do to support their well-being?
Yeah, I would say every day, because every day brings new challenges, every day brings new stress, every day also brings new happiness, right? It's choosing the perception of what you want to focus on. And I would say, every day just take 5 seconds, right? Think of one thing that can support your well being because we get so busy that we forget to even focus on ourselves. And I would say take a deep breath, really think of maybe a song or put on a song that makes you feel alive. I would say making sure that you're staying grounded in the present. There's a lot of research out there that talks about, when you're focusing on the past, that is depression. And when you're focusing too much on the future, that can cause anxiety. So being grounded in the present and being appreciative and grateful for what life is bringing your way and knowing that it is all going to come back around and that you can be in the thick of something and you just gotta, that saying, roll with the punches or go with the flow, roll with those waves that are coming. They might be hitting you in the face, they might be crashing you down, but at some point you're going to look back on the day and you're going to say, wow, everything had to happen in the way that it did for me to evolve and become the human being and set the purpose that I'm here for it to be.
Amazing. Love the words, and I totally agree with that view. And I try always, there's times that it feels hard to carry everything forward, and sometimes it's too busy, and things might just happen all at once sometimes, right? So I get it, but it's good to have this reminder to take time to pause, to breathe and focus, think of what you're thankful for or what helps you kind of re-baseline and find this strategy to cope with things and just push forward. So how do you manage to keep up with obviously a busy lifestyle, but having some time, I guess, for yourself so you're good for others, right? You can care for the rest of your loved ones once you are in a good spot and you care for your basic needs.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Basic needs are so important. I was just having a conversation with a friend, actually, how easy it is to not focus on yourself when, again, you're working full time and you're a mom, right? Like this morning, I'm packing 3, 4 lunches, right? My kids, my husband. Like, am I even making a nice lunch for myself? Probably not. We need to be really intentional and focus on a lot of that. I can tell you, I try to take the mindset that I had being Valerie before being a wife, before having children, and trying to really cultivate that because, again, it's very easy to lose yourself. And I think that most people don't realize, when perhaps you were a former athlete or now you're a current executive, or, you learn to carry a lot in your body and discipline, drive, pressure, pain. Um, I used to strength train a lot. I used to do hot Bikram yoga. I used to coach and play volleyball. So I always had these physical outlets for my body and my mind more so, right? I did it for my mind. It was just nice that it was also good for the body. Um, so now I feel like you have to take that physical and mental discipline with you, and it almost like creates this power, if I could explain it that way. Not that I was powerful, but I had grit, I had resilience. There were things that you could apply now but in a different way. Your body might not look the same, your body might not do the things that it used to back in the day, right? I could tell you, like, I have my cracks and my knees crack and all that, and definitely need to take collagen now. But the truth, I feel like, is that you have to just be able to take that power into where you are now and realize that the goal is no longer perfection, right? The goal is just, again, as I had said earlier, to be present. And that's powerful in a different form. So, now what I try to do, again, intentionally, after everybody goes to work or goes to school, I'm going to be in the Florida humidity. I'm going to put on my weighted vest. I go for walks now. I don't run purposely. I go for long walks, if I'm pouring sweat or trying to get my 10,000 steps in before 9 o'clock, right? Like, what's Valerie's win for the day? So no matter what comes after that, I can still feel good and fulfilled that I did something for me. That could just be listening to my music on my walk. That could be taking deep breaths, just walking in general. Again, trying to remain present. That's really my church. That is, for me, a way that I can say I'm proud that I accomplished this today. Even something as simple as, juicing my green juice every day and saying that, okay, I did that for me. It's a tiny win, but in the monotony of life, I think it carries itself in a way that makes me feel whole and complete and going back to who I am, because I'm a big proponent that you have to heal yourself and you have to take care of yourself. You have to fill your cup. You have to put on that oxygen mask first, right? Before you can take care of anybody else. And again, as a mom, I think, and as a full-time worker, I'm going to keep saying that over and over again, because many of us are in that boat. I think it takes a lot of due diligence. And I think it's very easy to get lost and feel like you're not enough, because I think also in this world that we live in with social media, there's a lot of comparison as well. So even in you and I talking today, I don't want people to be like, oh my gosh, she does all these things. Like, believe me, it's very difficult, and it doesn't happen every day. And it certainly doesn't necessarily happen every week either. But the days that it does happen, and I can tell you today, I felt way more motivated to do all these things because of this podcast. I think that it's something that's intrinsic within you, and you just have to be 1% better every day.
Love it. And while you were mentioning things that you learn as you grow, right? Like if you are a former athlete, if you probably were too disciplined in studying and whatnot, those skills that we have been practicing in other areas of our life as we transition, it's great
Mm-hmm.
for us to reapply them, right? So that's great what you're mentioning, because I find on my perspective what has been happening for me, university, I had like schedules that I had to be at the campus from 9 a.m. till 7 p.m. Some days, and that really helped building that resilience for whenever I had to go that now into the job market and figure out so many things in my life. It really helped me with, okay, I'm used to it, and I took it from, okay, this is my learning, I'm going to apply it and then do what I need to do. And then as we go, as you mentioned, we have to readapt goals, priorities, and figure out what works best, and obviously have this thing that we can thrive we can provide value, as you mentioned. And for me, it has been, and you can let us know how has it been applied for you professionally. But for me, it has been going like coming out from university, getting into that organizational behavior and whatnot, 9 to 5, let's say. But then I moved into more like, okay, I'm moving, transitioning, doing entrepreneurship, and then going into this podcast, trying to build a community, or not build, but sharing with a community things that will be really helpful, valuable to provide value, because I find that's something that we can do on my end. I'm putting a bit of what I can do for others and sharing and spreading some of these ideas, or obviously knowledge, because there's just so much time throughout the day that we can just absorb certain things, have that capacity where most of us, not everyone, but the majority, were like in front of the computer for so many hours that we don't want to go and look for things, and it's just easier to digest and have these specific ideas, and just like these tidbits of knowledge, or what has been working for you, for someone that is human, and that is like, I know many moms will feel, will resonate with them, how you work things out, how you feel some days, but how you manage to do things, maybe prioritizing your days, shuffling things around. But well, that's the overall way we can do. And I love like having that, like if you heal yourself and help others heal too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So from your overall work-life balance, I know you mentioned like you're doing like juicing and other things. Those are little things that add up. And on another podcast, we had the content talking about how you feel if you have a workout in, or if you something you love, maybe it's reading a book or meditating. There's so many things. Even having a cup of coffee for many of us is just so wonderful to have it in before the day starts. So little things that might be relevant, helpful for yourself, and doing eating clean as much as we can. That also translates in our overall energy, well-being, and it's nothing that you have to do like crazy things and go above and beyond, but little things will add up. It's like just that compounding effect.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one thing, I mean, as much as we can talk about what to do, I think it's also important to talk about what not to do, because there's so much micro stress in our life that we don't realize is happening. And when that compounds and that adds up, that's when that stress is, or dis-ease, right, is causing disease in our bodies. I'm a big proponent of the mind body connection. So what you were just talking about, like work and how things can get in the way, and how do we be mindful, I think as a good leader, sometimes it's also important of what not to do. So like we don't have to answer every fire. We're humans, right? We have to tell the negative committee in our head sometimes to sit down and shut up. There is so much judgment that we can carry for ourselves and for others. And again, choosing to be present, right? Not everything needs a reaction. Even my own kids, not everything that they do needs a reaction. They need to know that mommy has her own life too, and that in order to be good for them, I have to be good to me and to my husband. And I feel like that's the new leadership, even in the work world too, right? Like it's nervous system leadership, having emotional awareness, having emotional intelligence, embodying leadership that it's not just performing, but living it, right? What's the saying? Talk the talk, walk the walk, and being honest with yourself that, you know, if you're unwell as a leader, either as the leader of your family or a leader at work, that sometimes having all of that consume you can be really reactive and cold and can cause burnout. And, you know, that's not going to help anybody heal. You know, there's people that think they're healthy, but, you know, depending on their mental and emotional state will inevitably drive those physical ailments. So, you know, we can't wait for, let's say, like HR or the environment or the outside world to fix burnout. Like we have to choose that for ourselves.
Yes, that's also really important. And one thing that I would like to dive a bit, it can be from a personal perspective, like how to apply it for my job, let's say, but
Mhm.
also within the healthcare space, what would be your point of view on how we manage technology? Because we know
Mhm.
there's AI, there's technology that helps us on a day-to-day basis, but
Mhm.
there's also maybe flipping the coin. There's some things that will not be good from an overall point of view, or might be tricky to handle. Let's say if I'm a patient, sometimes if I'm lacking this human connection, then it might not be the best experience, or there might be things that we can only connect, build if we have this interaction.
Yeah, that's a great question. First, from a working perspective, I would say the way technology intersects, almost think about it like a calculator, right? When I think about I don't want it to replace the human experience, but I want it to elevate it. And knowing how fast AI can crunch data or aggregate information, right? There are fabulous ways that I have discovered how I can use AI, not just in the work world, but also in my personal life to be able to enhance it. Whether that's, going on Chat GPT and being like, these are all the ingredients that I have in my fridge. These are how old my children are. This is what my husband likes. What's a good meal that I could make tonight? Or, hey, it gives me these really healthy ideas and make me a list to then take to the store of the things that I have to buy. So it's helping to alleviate the mental load of the tasky items and allowing me to be able to now have an outcome that makes me proud of what I've done, right? Because I think any married individual can relate. The conversation that you have once you've been married so long is what's for dinner? It's one of the biggest things that can stress me out because I feel like after being with my husband for almost 20 years, it feels like it's the same food over and over again. So how can I do things differently, or how can I make something or make something with my kids that they enjoy? So that's just one small example, but being able to take that emotional and stressful load off of, oh my gosh, like what am I going to do now for dinner while I'm trying to multitask and do my day-to-day work is huge. And I think just it's like taking your survival skills and soft skills and putting them together and creating this emotional regulation that is so important for all of us, because again, it is so easy to get overwhelmed, to get overworked. And even in a society where I feel like we live for convenience, right? It's also important to take that and understand sometimes what's most convenient is also not what's most healthy. So I've had my fair share of times where I'm like, oh, AI, it's super convenient, but is it healthy for me? Like, so you can either go down like the social media scrolling rabbit hole, or you could use AI very purposely, very intentionally to say, this is what I need. This is what I'm looking for a quick outcome to be better, right? It's like choose your hard, right? It's hard to perhaps buy the healthy food now and cook the healthy food now. But it's even harder if you choose not to do it. And then you have to take care of your dis-ease and your disease later, right? So how do we going back to what you were saying earlier, right? That balance that can be so hard. I think that's where we can start using AI and technology in a way to lift us up as human beings and to recreate and or recapture going back to basics and just being a better human being that perhaps maybe our parents didn't give to us growing up, and being able to learn at a faster pace and then being able to share that with our family and our children, I think is tremendous.
Thanks, Valerie. I appreciate your point of view on this. And also, while you were mentioning like that, choose your heart, I love it. I know you mentioned it before, and it's maybe talking a bit of technology, how to create a bit of a metaphor is the same way we do it when with our kids. It's
Mhm.
easy to give up and just say like, okay, watch TV while I catch
Right.
up with work, do chores and whatnot. But in the long term, we know that it's not the best. Obviously, as we say, a balance. There's
Mhm.
always this judgment of the right balance. We cannot avoid them watching TV or playing video games at some point and whatnot. But obviously, there's a sweet spot in which I know their minds just get wired and it's hard for them to unplug. And then you have
Yeah.
to maybe battle with them for a bit because they were watching so much, and then they get so like stressed or angered when it goes away.
Mhm.
So it's kind of that same thing. We have to know where to use it, how to use it to benefit ourselves, but not to play against us. And then, as you say, choose your heart, right?
Yes, 100%. And that can be really hard, right? But I also feel like our kids are humans too, and they're constantly watching us. So, what I choose to do or what my husband chooses to do is likely something that our children will mimic, right? There's plenty of times I've gotten into arguments with my own kids where they say something to me and I'm like, you heard that from me. It's like, and they're just using it back on me. Like, I'll never forget when my daughter started kindergarten. It was like she came home one day and she's like, Mama, do you have your listening ears on? She's clearly hearing that and mimicking that from another adult, right? The mimicking and then the, like you were saying, the behavior. So, I think again, technology, I think that's fine. I mean, my children are, I think, Generation Alpha, like they're going to have to use it inevitably. But to your point, using it in a way that is constructive, that is also healthy, I think is so important. So, do I necessarily limit my children to specific screen times? No, I don't. What's more important to me is that, are you doing well in school? Are you doing well in sports? Are you doing well? You are? Okay, great. Sure. Then if you want to play your games and zone out and, escape, whatever, right? I mean, I did it as a kid, right? I played Nintendo, I played Sega Genesis. I think it's fine, but it's a matter of, is everything else well in your life? And if it is, then I'm more than happy to do this. And I think to your point, Lilia, if they're able to get off it without arguing about it, right? Without seeing they're addicted to it, I think is also very important, because I don't need to play a psychological game with them to get off of it. I just say, okay, we're going to have, 10 more minutes and then we have to have dinner, right? Something that's naturally just reoccurring in our house. And it brings so much joy to my husband and I when they can just put it down and walk away from it. Because for most of us, it's so hard to put something down and walk away with it. Anything, something that you're ruminating on in your brain, right? And being able to do that shows emotional regulation. And I feel like that's the name of the new wellness game, emotional regulation. Because at the end of the day, we're all relational, we're all humans. And if we can regulate ourselves, then we could do a better job regulating ourselves when we're in a conversation with somebody else, or even when it is conflict management, right? There's always going to be something that's going to be there. And again, just knowing that the kids are able to do that will set them up for success in the future.
Yes, totally. Thank you, Valerie. I know we're getting close to wrapping it up, but before we do so, I would love to hear from you if there's any specific, let's say, mantra or any type of ideas you want to uh, get flowing with the audience, maybe something that you have gone through recently, anything you want to share that will stick to the audience and will let them maybe get their minds thinking or just resonate.
Yeah, I think a couple topics that we discussed today, if you're not prioritizing your wellness, you're going to inevitably be forced to prioritize your illness. So take the time now. And I'm not talking about artificial interventions, right? I'm talking about going back to basics. Get outside, get your sunlight, make sure you're drinking enough water. You don't like green juice? Try it. It's very good for you, right? Get the vegetables in, the fruit, get the wholesome foods that are nutritious, making sure that you're always mentally checking in with yourself. One mantra that I love, you just asked about a mantra: the more we sweat in peace, the less we bleed in war. So being able to go through the hard times with yourself and figuring that out and not passing it on to your children, not letting your work life bleed over to your family life, no matter what it is that you're going through, and being able to resonate deep with yourself and who you are, and coming to terms with maybe your past self and who your current self is, and knowing that you're going to constantly evolve. And some days it's good, some days it's bad, and that's okay. It goes back to that work-life integration. It goes back to knowing that at the end of the day, all of us are in a very similar boat. It's how we choose to see that boat and how we choose to live our lives in a way that are fulfilling. And that could be very different for each one of us, but being true to yourself is, I know it sounds really cliche, but being able to deal with that today will help you be a better person tomorrow for yourself and for your family and your friends.
And that is something really applicable, and I like it's something you take it for yourself, you work internally, and that helps you for like personally, but also with your loved ones or your coworkers. So that's great. I think change starts from within. So
Mhm.
that's perfect. And one thing that came to my mind is that phrase that says you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. So that's
Yes, I love
a
that.
great one.
That's great. Yeah, because right, life's not perfect, but as long as you try to be intentional about what you're doing, then I think that that makes a big difference for sure.
Yeah, agreed. Well, thank you very much, Valerie. I appreciate your time, all your insights, and sharing your personal story, how you are applying things and trying to live the best life and finding that balance, making sure you are well and your family is too. So great job. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much.
much, Valerie.
Thank you, Lillian.